What up? It's your boy Riggy Marz, here with another story for y'all. Like I said in the previous video, I'm not doing chapter 1, 2, 3, 4 anymore because it's just all over the place. I just share my stories as they come to mind. So the first one that pops up is Humboldt County. Now, I know some of you have heard, my chapter 3 Humboldt County story when I got busted by the California Highway Patrol. So this was around that time. This was about 2009, 2010. I was already on felony probation for that case, still making my runs up and down to Humboldt and back with packs. Still strung out, dodging drug tests. So I had gone to detox yet again at Los Encinas Hospital in Pasadena, California. It was a 10-day program, 2-week program. Detoxed, got out, and I had gone, I was on good terms at that point with my PO. So I told her that I got a job offer up in Northern California. I told her that I was going to be working in San Francisco doing construction, and she was cool with that as long as I'd report monthly with her, right? So I'd have to go back to LA every month and test and whatnot. So I lied. I was not in San Francisco. I was up on the hill, and the hill meaning, the mountain, about 36 miles east of Arcata, 9 miles west of Willow Creek, roughly off the 299. If y'all have seen Murder Mountain, that documentary, you know what it looks like. So I was working on the land for a whole grow season. We were growing light dep, we were growing greenhouse, we were growing just straight outdoor. The light dep we would harvest, that would be our first harvest. Like we'd harvest June, July. So, that would help with, of course, like buying nutrients and like all that shit. Like the operation we had, we spent easily about $20,000 on just nutrients. You know what I mean? So I worked that 6 months while flying back monthly to test and be on good standings with my PO. And, I was smoking weed, dude, and still passing my test. And, what I would do was I would double up. I would use those, the brand doesn't come to mind, but it's like the popular one, the one that you, Q Carbo. I would drink Q Carbo, fill it up with water, drink that shit again. But I would also buy a bottle of Gatorade, right? Like just, your regular, 16-ounce bottle of Gatorade. And there's this product called Certo. And Certo is like gelatin. It's like Jello powder. So you dump a box of Certo into the Gatorade, mix that shit up, and you chug that before a drug test. And what that does is it like masks your liver and kidneys and shit, so you piss clean, right? That's the only way I've ever passed a drug test was with Certo, or of course the Wizinator. But those are like, the Wizinators are like not very accurate, you feel me? Like they're like 12 inches long, you feel me? So I got busted, had to do a county lid for that shit. Whatever, that's a different story. So I worked on the mountain. I got cashed out about $30,000 and a bunch of weed. Like I came back on a Greyhound bus with a pound of weed on me and 30 grand cash in my pocket. And, I always sit, I'm a Greyhound gangster, dude. I always sit all the way in the back by the toilets because that's where all the action happens. Like I cannot tell you how many women I've smashed in Greyhound porta potty bathrooms, how many drugs I've done, like people I've met just very strange people, like so many interesting people, you know what I mean? So this kid like smelled the weed on me. He's like, yo, you got a tree? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, would you trade me a quarter pound for a bottle of Klonopin and a bottle of methadone pills? And I was like, fuck yeah. Because I've been clean off that shit for 6 months. And mind you, I'm on felony probation. Like, you know, I will go to jail, like, if I test dirty. So, like, after 6 months of being cool, like, just like that, like, dude offered it to me. And, you know, being clean for so long, you don't have the same tolerance you do. You know what I'm saying? That's why so many people overdose when they start doing opiates again and shit. You know what I mean? They think that they can do the same amount that they did back when they were actively using, and boom, you know? So, you know, it was a greyhound from Arcata, California, Eureka, California, which is just 6 miles south of Arcata. Eureka is kind of like the skeezy, like tweaker area of Humboldt County, to LA. That was the trip. But an old producer friend of mine that I was roommates with when I was a snowboard instructor in Mammoth Mountain back in 2005, lived in San Francisco. And I hit him up and I was like, yo, bro, I just got paid hella racks. Fucking let's record a song or something, right? So he was like, yeah, man, you can crash for the weekend. So I hopped off the train in San Francisco, you know, and I'd already popped, I don't even know, I was blacked out at this point. I don't even remember getting off the bus really. Like, I remember meeting up with him just because it had been years, like, since we'd seen each other and fucking, apparently, and he was like, my boy Panorama Beats, he's not an addict. Shouts to Panorama Beats. You saved my life, bro. I love you wherever you're at. Contact me, bro. DM me. Hit me up on Instagram. Riggy Marz. RIGGYMARZ. Where the fuck you at? Let's link. I meet up with Panorama in San Francisco. And he lived in like the Richmond district of San Francisco. And there was this bar that we would always hit up, literally like a block from his crib. So we would just, every time I'd come visit him, we'd hit this bar and get shit faced and walk back to his place. But so Panorama's a normie, you know. A normie is somebody that is not an addict. And I blacked out. I remember this fool looked just like Mac Dre, dude, but with Jerry curls. And he pulled up in this purple van and opened the back doors, and he's like bumping hip hop and shit. It was like he owned a record label or something, and it was like his artist. And there's a couple bloods in there, like they're all smoking blunts and shit. I remember this part because it was dope. Like it was like a purple like leather like seats and shit, and they reclined, and he had a big screen in the back and like a PlayStation. I think it was a PlayStation 4 at this time. So we were doing that, and I guess like, you know, I found, now mind you, after the incident that happened that evening, I will get into that. I didn't know the actual story until like years later when I reconnected again with Panorama. But I guess I was drinking gin and tonics mixed with the methadone pills I took and the Klonopin after being clean for 6 months. So I was fucked up, dude. I was fucked up. And this is the last thing I remember. Okay, so Panorama, like, you know, he probably took like, and they were the methadone 10s, like the white pills, the 10 milligram pills, and I probably was off like 10 of those like a couple Klonopins and multiple gin and tonics, right? Like a lethal combination, like that's the worst combo to take. Fucking benzos, opiates, and liquor. Like, you know, that's the addict mind right there. You know, after 6 months of sobriety, that's the insanity of it. So the last thing I remember is Panorama is like, hey bro, can I get like another half pill off you? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And I took the bottle out of my pocket, opened the bottle, and it was like picture this, like scene to scene, like in a movie. Like he puts his hand out like this, and I'd pull a pill out of the bottle, break it in half, and put it on his hand like that. And then everything goes black, and I wake up 11 days later in the hospital to them pulling a catheter out my dick. And I'm handcuffed to the gurney, and when you wake up in a situation like that, like you're right away like defiant. Like, so I remember this. I woke up and it hurt so bad, and I think I had chlamydia at the time too, so it was like even more brutal when they pulled it out. You know what I'm saying? So they pulled the catheter out my dick. And I was like, whoa, like, what happened? And they're like, hey, Steven, calm down. You had an accident, and they probably hit me with an Ativan shot or something to calm me down. And my mom and my dad are in the room at the hospital. So it went from like me breaking in front of the bar in the Richmond district, like putting a pill in Panorama's hand, to me waking up in the hospital, to them pulling a catheter out of me with my fucking parents in the room, you know, like humiliating, you know what I'm saying? And I was in a coma for 11 days for acute kidney failure, an 11-day coma. So my parents like had literally lived in the hospital with me for that 11 days, like, so, and they released me to their care, right, and to drive me back to LA. And as soon as my feet hit the pavement, I'm already texting my heroin plug back in LA, like, hey fool, I need a ball, I need a 3-piece as soon as I touch back. That's the insanity of addiction, man. Like, I just was in a fucking coma for 11 days. And I'm already wanting more heroin because the methadone, like I took the methadone, you know, that's the obsession of the mind, right? The allergy of the body. That's the disease of addiction, right? In a nutshell. Like, so I had reconnected, about 2 years later with Panorama, because it was weird, dude. Like he, you know, and I was mad at him at the time. Like, why aren't you fucking answering my calls, dude? Like he just like, we're such good friends. And a lot of my friends had done this to me, when I wasn't clean, you know, cause they basically like came to the conclusion, like I was going to die from this, you know what I'm saying? And they, you know, it's called tough love. Like people, like, you know, it's like they knew I was gonna die, right? Knock on wood. They knew I was gonna die, so they had to like separate themselves from me, right? And it was just an awkward thing. Like, so 2 years later we reconnected. He told me the story. Like, Panorama is the one who had to call my parents to tell him, hey, your son overdosed. I think he's like dead. You know, so in the middle of the night, it's like 3 a.m. They drove straight to San Francisco in the middle of the night to the hospital. But what happened was I was blacked out, and apparently those bloods that I was in the van with, like I had like got in a fight with them, and they fucked me up. But like Panorama helped break it up. They're like, he's drunk. I don't remember any of this, right? And Panorama like kind of he had to like help me to his house, right? So I'm just like, I don't remember, but I was just obliterated. And so you walk in his crib, there's the living room. He put me on the couch, right? and like went to bed. And now the couch in the living room, like there's a hallway, right? It's a direct view of the hallway. There's a bathroom, another bedroom, and then his other roommate's room at the end of the hall. So what happened was his roommate at about 3-4 in the morning just so happened to wake up to take a piss, right? So he walked out the door, and I guess Panorama didn't tell him that he was having a guest over, right? And he didn't know who I was. So the roommate saw me from the end of the hall, me on the couch, and I don't know if he like came up to me and be like, who is that? You know, but he saw that I was purple. Like I was like not breathing, I was purple. So his roommate called 911. The ambulance came, and had taken me to the hospital. And Sam, like, Panorama drove behind the ambulance, and he's the one that called my parents and told them what happened. But really, his roommate, whoever you are, thank you for saving my life, bro. You saved my life. And this was before Narcan, dude. This was before Narcan. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I had no idea, like, the real story, you know, and, like, I had made my amends to him, you know. I was just like, dude, I'm sorry for, like, my behavior and putting you in that situation, you know what I'm saying? And it was all good. And then he had stayed with me for about 2 weeks. At that point, we recorded an album together, which I took off my, I used to go by the name Mr. McStrange. I know I was on a lot of drugs. So that was the Mr. McStrange album. I had some production on it from Sapient, from the Sam People. Yeah, man. So I'm gonna end it right there. But that was just the first overdose. That was the first time I overdosed, and my kidneys are fine. I was 22 years old. I'm 36. And I used for another decade plus after that, you know, and it got much, much worse, man. And no exaggeration, I've probably, the ones I can remember, like where I've been Narcaned, just the ones, like, I'm not including the ones where I just woke up on my own, like over there on the floor an hour later. That's probably like 3 dozen. But I've been Narcaned by the paramedics or by friends or whoever was in the room probably about 3 dozen times as well. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's a miracle I'm alive. If you're watching this and you haven't picked up or used today, that's a miracle too. And, you know, I'm going to continue with these stories. Like, I love how my past, my nightmarish past has become my message. And it's like, they're crazy stories, but like I can laugh at them now, you know, like, cause, you know, I want to try to make them funny and shit, make light of them. You know what I mean? I can't ever forget those. And that's why I talk about those stories. You know what I mean? Hoping that it can maybe help another, and to remind myself that I am an addict with the disease of addiction, and I can't do just one of anything, because once I put one in me, I lose complete control. And I love you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to be uploading much more. I am now on Cameo. You can add me on Cameo for $25 personalized videos. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Riggy Marz. No subscribers yet, but I'm going to be pumping out a lot more content, period. Just music, acting reels, comedy skits, etc., etc. And I'm going to be doing Friend Fridays again. I got a really tight list of people that would make some dope interviews. So yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, show your friends. Rest in peace, Ryan Leone. Palabra.